One line. That is all it takes. One line that a producer can pull, a social editor can post, and an audience can repeat. The guests who build careers from single appearances know exactly what they need to say to get you to repeat it. And in the last 4 episodes, we've been breaking down some of the most watched shows in the world so that you can become a stronger host and guest. We discuss the cinematic intimacy of Diary of a CEO, the action-engineered formula of Mel Robbins, the unscripted chemistry of SmartLess, and the high-frequency personality loop of The Breakfast Club. 4 different shows with 4 different reasons to tune in. But the one thing that their guests all have in common, as well as some of the hosts, is mastering the soundbite. The ability to take one idea, charge it with emotion, and deliver a line so clean and so specific that it lives forever outside of the conversation it came from. That is a skill, and today we are going to build it together. This is Think Like a Producer, an On-Cam Ready presentation. I'm Jamie Maglietta, television news veteran, media strategist, and founder of On-Cam Ready. So the On-Cam Ready media, by the way, guys, really helps experts take their thought leadership and turn it into content. We also have an events coverage business where if you are a speaker and you're looking to make some speaker content for your website, we have videographers. We can help shoot that, edit it for you. I'm also someone who really works closely with our clients to help them become visible online and then get some press. So this whole series that I've been crafting for you is called Through the Producer's Lens, and I'm calling this one the Skills Edition. Every show we have covered really demands this skill from its guests, and most experts never learn it. They show up on these interviews and practically bomb it because they don't know how to craft out their thought leadership strategically into concise, impactful sentences and phrases. So you need to work on that. Having had pageant experience where we had to write out all the questions we could be asked on stage or behind the scenes, and then write out all of responses until they became 30-second bites, I highly recommend you do that too, and I tell all my clients to do the same before they have press interviews. If you are loving this series of Through the Producer's Lens, please comment on this website and let me know. I will have links to the other episodes in the description. And if you are enjoying this, do subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow us on your podcasting platform of choice. Each week, I alternate on my YouTube channel. So this is a bi-weekly podcast and YouTube episode. And then I have Unknown to Known every other week where I interview YouTubers, influencers, on-camera personalities about what it takes to become known. There are so many interviews that can help you. So please check out Unknown to Known. Tips are all over the place on those episodes. Lots of useful, actionable takeaways. Let's get this going. Diary of a CEO. The guests who go viral are not the ones with the best credentials. They are the ones who deliver a line so raw, so quotable, it gets clipped, captioned, and shared by people who never watched the full episode. On Mel Robbins' podcast, the framework only works if the guest can distill their expertise into a specific, actionable, emotional, resonant statement. Mel gives you the structure, but as a guest, you have to bring that soundbite. On SmartLess, the guests who own the room are the ones confident enough to go off script and still land on something memorable. On SmartLess, these guests usually know how to play to the humor of the room, make some jokes, but also weave in their talking points with ease. And on The Breakfast Club, Charlemagne will push you, challenge you, and call out every non-answer in real time. The guests who come out of that studio with a viral clip are the ones who came in with something to say and the precision to answer it under pressure. If this is something you feel confident being able to do, you might be ready for a show like The Breakfast Club. You just have to really be relevant. We'll talk about that on another episode, but I do weave relevancy into almost every episode of Unknown to Known and Think Like a Producer. Every show, every format, the same skill. Now let's talk about how you can build this at home. When I was producing, I edited SOTs, sound bites, every single day. This sound on tape was a pulled quote, an expert moment, the line that makes air on other shows and on social. And after years of watching what made the cut and what got left on the floor, I identified three things that every great soundbite has in common. I turned those three things into a framework, and I have been teaching it to experts ever since. And I do use this in my whole program, my media readiness visibility launch. My entire framework is called Bookable, and the SOT falls under my A, articulating yourself on camera. Had to look at my board to remember the letter as I'm trying to go off the cuff, and I don't really read a script. I just have notes. That's also something you need to be able to master as a guest because you're not going to really have notes in front of you. I call it the SOT framework, and it looks like this: one idea, not two, not three. One, the experts who try to make 3 points in 30 seconds land usually don't land at all. The ones who commit to one idea and drive it all the way home, those are the ones who get used, shared, and called back. Let me give you an example. I have these quotes written down. I came up with this one. A lot of people say media earns media. I say relevancy earns media. That's a quick little soundbite. So if I'm on a podcast, you may hear me say that. Another one that I had was, don't chase the press, produce it. That's a little tiny bite that I could weave into a reply to a question or a comment. You want to make sure that you have these punchy little quotes or support statements that you can say in any on camera opportunity or even when you're quoted for an article. Number two, think about that emotion, not information delivery, emotion, urgency, concern, confidence, hope. Whatever the moment calls for, the best sound bites make you feel something before they make you know something. That emotional layer is what makes a clip shareable and what makes a viewer remember your name. So let's practice. Like if I have this statement, right, where the media doesn't discover experts, it recognizes them. Okay. So if I have that statement and I'm saying it, I want to say it with distinction. And this is how you could work it out too, right? Okay. The media doesn't discover experts, it recognizes them. There's some emotion there. I've put a little pause to it. If I wanted to add some more to it, I could say in another response, I wouldn't put them together. When people ask, how do you become bookable? I always say relevancy earns media. So right there, I'm delivering it with a little bit of emotion so that it gets you like, oh, wow, that sounded impactful. That could wind up being a social media clip. You also want to think about your delivery. So when I am going through a list, for example, I have this in bullets on here. I want to be delivering, your soundbite wants to be delivering, I said, right? Emotion, urgency, concern, confidence, and hope. If you have a list like that, you actually don't want to deliver it very stale in this way. You would want to deliver it like this with some urgency to it. Your soundbite should not just be you delivering information. You need to deliver emotion, urgency, concern, confidence, hope. You see how I changed the way I emphasized and said each word, also the speed of my delivery? If you're giving a list, you don't want to sit there and be like, number one, emotion. You want to have emotion in this. No. If you're giving a soundbite and you have 3 points to it, like my SOT, 1, idea, 2, emotion, 3, you want it to be quotable. And now let me explain. If you don't give those 3 points off the top, chances are that soundbite's going to be a little hard to cut. Like if you look at my episode with Allison Hare, she delivered toward the end of our conversation these points that really should have been toward the beginning and tightened up a bit. So she has this long list of what it takes to really produce a podcast. Her framework, that framework should be listed off the top of that soundbite. So if someone asks me, okay, well, Jamie, how does someone make a soundbite? How do they get that quote in an article? I'm glad you asked that. One of the ways is through my SOT framework. One, you need a good idea. Two, you need to have some emotion. Three, it needs to be quotable. Let me explain, right? Because then I'm giving you all that and you could cut that, put that into a quote in an article. I would elaborate around that a little bit toward the end, explain why, but you can say something like that off the top of a framework or something before you dig into the steps so that you have that bite-sized moment that could be shared on social. That emotional layer is also really important, how you deliver it. Listen to how she delivered her framework. There was also that she needs to really work on, and this is me picking on her, and I don't mean to. I love you, Allison. But when she delivered it, it also needs to be delivered in a way that makes me as a producer or the host see it as a soundbite, see it as quotable if I'm a journalist listening to her, right? Or listening to you. So that number three part is make it quotable. A sentence so clean, so specific that it lives perfectly outside of the conversation it came from. Something a producer can pull and put on a chyron. That's that lower third banner or a headline on an article. Something a social editor can put on a carousel post, as well as overhead when you're making that statement. One idea, one emotion, one quotable line, 30 seconds. That is the SOT framework. Everything else I'm teaching you today is built around that. Now, I'm not really great at coming up with my own sound bites, okay? So let me be clear. You really need to know who you are, who you serve. And I have a framework for that. It's in my visibility program, and my workbook is on Amazon. So you can get that if you don't have access to the digital program. You can still download that workbook or buy that workbook from Amazon. But in it, you really need to know who you are and who you serve and have all these phrases thought out and practice. So because I'm used to being the person interviewing, I'm not really great at being interviewed without a lot of practice. So I'm media training myself right now to be on podcasts because I'm not someone who, typically shows up on them. But now I feel like I'm the star of my own show. I got to be the show. I got to be the star in my own life and my business. And that means I got to show up on camera too, on other people's podcasts. Okay, sorry, I have hairspray if you're watching on YouTube and my hand just got stuck in my hair. All right. So here are 3 skills that make the SOT framework work in practice on every platform in every format. Skill 1, headline. Always think of what could the headline be. Watch the guests who dominate every show we've talked about so far. You can even look at last season when I talked about Rotten Mango and other YouTube podcasts. They do not warm up. They do not say, well, there are several factors to consider here. They open with a headline. The most essential truth, the most provocative claim, the most urgent takeaway in the first 5 seconds. That's why I'm saying if you have a framework that has like some really good details, you say that right off the top. In television, we call this the nut graph, the sentence that tells the audience exactly why this matters right now. The best guests lead with it every single time because they know a host might redirect them at any moment, and they got to make sure they get it in. First things first, everything up after that is supporting the evidence. Okay, you need to practice. Take any topic in your expertise and write the headline first. What is the single most important thing someone needs to know? Say it, then explain it. Skill 2, high stakes vocabulary. There is a specific register of language that cuts through any format, podcast, live interview, YouTube interview, and it's not jargon, not academic, not corporate speak. It is the language that creates urgency, signals authority, and respects the audience's intelligence at all time. The audience intelligence, that was hard for me to say. Think about the guests on these shows who leave you thinking, I need to hear more from that person, right? If you're listening to a guest and you're like, gosh, I really want to hear more from him, they do not have to say, this is concerning. They say, this changes everything we thought we knew. They do not say, there are questions. They say, the answers to this determine what happens next, right? That is high stakes vocabulary. Make sure you weave it in. It's not sensationalism. It's just using urgency and interesting words and language to really hedge up what you have to say and emphasize your thought leadership. All right, you also want to have a talking point library. Recently, I actually did this. I spoke into my Claude. So, this is a really good AI tip. I spoke into my Claude, told him all my frameworks. I then typed in some ideas, some quotes that I've been saying. And I asked Claude to put together a language document, a document of quotes and things that I say that are worth me repeating. So you want to have a book of lines, frequent statements and tips, your frameworks, and you want to have it in like a binder. We did that in pageant work, and it's worth having as a guest completely. You could put it in an Excel document or someplace online. You don't need it in printed form, however you want to do it. But what you want to do is make sure that you're preparing specific answers for specific questions. And that library of talking points starts to become so routine that you're easily able to weave it in when you're asked a question that's maybe tied to something newsy or trendy. You can weave in your points without even thinking about it. I want you to think of it as like a Lego. Each block is a talking point. The foundation of that Lego house is the basis of your thought leadership. And then each block that goes up to the roof is building the home that you call your own IP, your own thought leadership, your own wisdom. It all fits together, it all snaps into place, and it all comes out beautifully. In the end, you'll have a beautiful home, but that house may fall over if that foundational knowledge isn't ironed out. So you got to iron it out. And again, that's why I have that workbook. So look it up, visibility program. I have a on cam ready checklist, a visibility bundle. In that is a QR code to my book and all the things you need to really show up on camera ready. So why don't you download that, get it all, and then access to the book. That'd be great to help you as you're preparing for podcasts and TV interviews. All right, the answers, they need to sound responsive and natural. And the only way is if you practice. But it's also, deliberate. You want to be precise and really think in advance. Each block is built around the SOT framework, that idea, the emotion, the quotable line. I want you to sit down. Yes, I'm giving you homework. I want you to sit down this week and build out your library. What are the 5 questions you get asked the most? And how have you answered them? How could you answer them better? What are your frameworks? Do you have any? If you don't, now's your time. You got to start thinking about branding. Reach out. Write a 30-second soundbite and answer each question with 30 seconds. This way, when you're on a podcast and you have more time, you can elaborate around those talking points that you've already established. But if you don't have those established talking points, it just makes all your media prep difficult. It's better to have those points that you can elaborate around than not have those points and then have a whole podcast conversation go by and you're like, wow, I didn't say anything I really was here to talk about. So you want to refine it. All right. Here's the through line from each episode so far in this Focusing on the Producer's Lens series. All right. Steve Bartlett, he books guests who can deliver emotional vulnerability with precision. Mel Robbins books guests who can hand the audience a specific tool in under 2 minutes. The SmartLess hosts book guests who are confident enough in their own point of view to play along without a safety net. The Breakfast Club books guests who can hold a room when it gets uncomfortable. All those things, all those skills are needed for you to succeed and be on cam ready. And that's why I have Think Like a Producer. My Unknown to Known is all about that journey and what you need to create the content, turn your thought leadership into long form content, YouTube, social media, podcasts, but also what it takes to overcome those emotional hurdles when you don't think you're good enough. This is all about giving you the skills you need to get ahead. You can work with me directly. you can take my digital course, or you can just binge these episodes, and you'll do so great when you land that podcast interview or television interview. The ability to take what you know, charge it with some feelings, and deliver it in a line that sticks is key. The experts who get called back are not always the most credentialed. They are the ones who make the host's job easier. They give value to their audience. They know how to deliver what they have to say in a tight amount of time. The ones who come prepared, they're not sitting there spitting out memorized talking points, okay? If you listen, they're not. And it is built with reps. That confidence comes from creating content. And if you are hesitant to even start showing up, I challenge you, when you're doing your homework this week and listening to those episodes and watching Mel Robbins, I want you to start recording your own content. 30-second POVs, your point of view on a topic, and watch it back. How can you improve your on-camera delivery? Just pick one topic. Write a 30-second response, one idea, one emotion, one quotable line. Time yourself and just keep refining it. And when you record it and you look back at it, oh my, you will see where you need to change. And you'll even start thinking, gosh, what do I need to wear? I have an episode on Unknown to Known all about that. Melanie Lipman, my image consultant, we talk about how you can really change everything for yourself online if you commit to your colors. I also go into that in my branding conversation with K&C Creative. So check out Unknown to Known and ask yourself, does the language I use signal my authority and tell people I know what I'm talking about? Would a social editor put it on a carousel or quote it? Would what I have to say make the article if I'm interviewed? So build out that library. Just pick 5 topics, 5 sayings, make them into sound bites, practice. Oh gosh, you have a lot of homework. Watch those episodes. Maybe just pick one guest from each. Diary of a CEO, Mel Robbins, SmartLess, and Breakfast Club. Okay, but put your producer hat on. Find the moment each guest lands that soundbite. Study what made it land, then build your own. If you're liking this part of my Think Like a Producer series where I am giving you my take through the producer's lens, definitely reach out and let me know. I hope it has shown you that the experts who dominate every format from cinematic to syndicated radio morning shows are not just winging it. They are producing themselves, or they're being produced by someone like me. They're showing up with strategy, with craft, and with the on-camera confidence that only comes from doing the work. That is exactly what my visibility program is built to help you do. So if you're wondering what I offer, I have this visibility program. It's a digital course where you can learn how to take your thought leadership, turn it into content, start those sound bites using some AI as well to help you save time, shooting content, editing that content, talk about CapCut, how to post without having that awful pickup, having to post without burnout. And then once you graduate from that course, you're more than welcome to connect with me, and you can do my visibility launch where I help you craft out your content, connect you with those in my network, and help you land some press so that you can start really putting yourself out there strategically. If you have what it takes, you have the academic background or the lived experience, and you really want media, it's a great way to get ahead before you start pitching the press or reaching out to public relations companies. I also have a great group of PR firms that I can connect you to that you can interview, which can also help you save time. All right. We've gone over a lot in this episode. So I just want to thank you for being here. Remember, I'm Jamie Maglietta. Find me on Instagram. This is Think Like a Producer. Check out Unknown to Known. Visit us on YouTube if you're not already there, and follow us on your podcast platform of choice. My daughter would kill me because I just did another list at the end of the show, but I'm a millennial. Thanks, guys.